Syracuse, ranked undefeated Syracuse rather, is going to Death Valley to play the Clemson Tigers. Clemson is favored by 13.5. Now, you will hear a lot about this game because everybody and anybody that went to journalism school and is working for ESPN or Fox or whatever big media outlet it is probably went to Syracuse. That's cool. That's great. We on the show, me and Nick Brake, we didn't go to Syracuse, so we don't really care, but this is a great game. We're going to break it down. Clemson is likely facing their last real hurdle of the ACC slate. And that's not a knock on the ACC. It's not a knock on Clemson. That's just the reality. They're probably going to pass this, be able to, or at least be in better position to continue to run the table. This is the last ranked team they'll probably see maybe before the ACC title game. And if you watched their game last week against Florida State, you know they didn't really finish that game the way they wanted to. They kind of had it won in the third quarter and looked like a little bit they sort of took their foot off the gas. And Dabo Swinney this week challenged his entire program. He said, no. We got to have a killer instinct. That's cool to beat Florida State. We want to do that. That's great to win a game. It's hard to win a game. He said, I appreciate winning. But to get to where they want to go, if they want to hoist that college football playoff trophy, probably even more so if they want to host that ACC title trophy, they got to have that killer instinct. So there is a challenge out there for the Clemson Tigers. Keep that in mind. For Syracuse, they're 6-0 for the first time since 1987. It's impressive. It's a good time to be in Syracuse, New York. A win for them over Clemson. Think about that, what that would do for that program. Think about just the message that would send to the rest of the country. Whoa, hey, we got to start taking Syracuse seriously over here. We got to start factoring them into maybe the college football playoff conversation. It sounds funny to say right now, but if we get to next Tuesday and we're talking about Syracuse beating Clemson, well, then this is a whole new conversation, all right? Just something to think about. Also think about where this Syracuse program was at the beginning of the year. Dino Babers, for a lot of people, was on that hot seat talk. Is he going to be able to keep his job? Well, let me tell you this. They went from being on the ropes to now being on the top rope and potentially ready to pull off a very, very big upset. So we're going to break this thing down. One of the hinge points for us here is how extra does that Syracuse defense have to be? Because Clemson wants to run the football. They've been pretty effective running the football, and Will Shipley is a workhorse for them, averaging right around 6 yards a carry. Dude is a dog. He is, in a lot of ways, what their offense goes through. Whether he's catching the ball, whether he's running the ball, he's a bell cow for them. They're going to feed him. For Syracuse, are you able to just play him head up in that front seven? Are you able to just say, hey, we're going to play our base defense, we're going to play our trenches versus your trenches, and we feel like we can stop you? If they can stop them, well, that changes the entire complexion of the game, because that means that Clemson then has to be a little bit more multiple in how they attack, put more pressure on DJ, who's been pretty solid under pressure, to be fair, but it probably makes the game a little bit more interesting, to say the least, for Syracuse. For Syracuse, if they can't, let's say they have to commit an extra safety, they have to make that box a little bit more loaded, more guys up there trying to stop the run, well, then that plays perfectly into Clemson's hands. Because then you got Antonio Williams, the freaky fast freshman, running down the sideline, and he's got one-on-one coverage. You don't want him one-on-one. I'm just telling you right now. Also, all the big bodies they got, whether it's Bringenstool, whether it's Ngata, they got dudes, right? You have them one-on-one, you're probably not winning that matchup if you're Syracuse. Just the reality. So stay out of one-on-one coverage by being able to stop the run with your front seven. Now, I'll just say this. To my understanding, Clemson likes that matchup. They feel like Syracuse is maybe a little bit undersized in the trenches. They think they can take advantage of that. If Clemson can take advantage of that, they're just going to dictate their tempo, play their game, feed Will Shipley. They can be balanced. They can be in the play action kind of game. Like, everything opens up if they can run the football. Big hinge point in this one. On the flip side, can Clemson earn some passing downs? And if they can earn some passing downs, well, then it's time to hunt. And Schrader's a good quarterback for Syracuse, but if that front seven is in hunt mode, it's bad news for everybody. So, Sean Tucker, running back for Syracuse, averaging right around 5 yards a carry. He's very quietly one of the best backs in the country. If he played at a school with a bigger logo, you'd probably know a little bit more about him. He's actually great on Twitter because he tweets out a review of his performance every single game, whether he was pleased, whether he was not pleased. He's a great follow. Check that out. But he needs to be pleased with his performance in this game to give Syracuse a chance. Because if you're living in 3rd and 8, God forbid 3rd and 10, then you got to deal with Xavier Thomas off the edge. You got to deal with Brian Brzee. You got to deal with Miles Murphy. Like, there is a lot of dudes that are going to play on Sundays in this Clemson front seven, and they are all running at you, and they know it's a passing down. That's a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. Now, you can live in a 3rd and 4 or in a 3rd and 2. Well, guess what? Playbook's open. You can effectively run the ball, or you can do play action. You can keep that defense off balance. And that is the world you want to live in if you're Syracuse. You do not want to have your hand shown to this Syracuse front seven and just pray for guys to get open. That's not going to be a good story for you if you're Dino Babers and company. Not to mention it's in Death Valley. Place will be rocking. I think Dabo Swinney issued a call to action in very Dabo Swinney fashion, said, tie your shoes, eat your breakfast bars. Apparently that's a thing they do down there in Clemson, South Carolina. I love it. Can't have that happen for Syracuse. We'll allow the crowd to get even more into it. I don't want to talk this to death. Don't let those Tigers hunt. Run the ball. Be able to run the ball. Good things will happen for you if you're Syracuse. So here's probably what it comes down to for me in this entire game. Clemson is the more talented program. Clemson is just, quite frankly, the more experienced program. They have a more proven coach. They have a better quarterback. Like, all the edges favor Clemson. If Clemson plays their game, if Clemson plays to their capacity, their caliber, they're going to win this game and they're going to cover the spread. If they don't, if we see what happened with them fourth quarter against Florida State, where they're not super efficient on either side of the ball and they're hurting themselves, if they play with their food, they will make this game interesting. And if this game is interesting, the crowd's not in it. And I think it'll be very interesting to see if DJ has a moment where he kind of flashes back to 2021. Now, I will say this. I don't think that happens. I think Dabo Swinney's call to action this week to his team, to the challenge to his team to say, hey, I don't like how we finished. That's not us. We need better. I think that allows them to avoid this kind of letdown spot. So I think DJ plays a clean game. I think Will Shipley eats consistently. I think they're really internally motivated right now, and I think this thing gets ugly in the Valley. Clemson wins this one, 38-14. The Tigers roll, and they essentially lock up a spot in the ACC title game. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.